Okay, welcome back to the Rock and Nole channel. It's been a little while since I did a live stream on the main channel right here. I've been doing stuff on the Rock and Nole Plus channel, so subscribe to that as well. That's a second channel I created. It'll be dedicated more to traveling, uh, wrestling, music, all that type of stuff. Where this channel, we're going to focus on mainly Florida State, but other types of college sports, game day experiences, professional game day experiences, that type of stuff. So, okay, Billy P is supposed to be joining us tonight, but I figured I'd get it started. He's not here yet. Hopefully, he can show up soon. If not, it's all good. So, I wanted to wait. Like, of course, so many people did their live streams yesterday when the news broke about the settlement. I didn't want to yet for two reasons. One was it wasn't a done deal; it was just reported that it was done. I wanted confirmation it was done. Okay, Billy says he should be here in 5, which is no problem. Hold on one sec. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so I didn't want to report it yet because, or talk about it yet, because to me, until it's a done deal, it's not a done deal. And I wanted to see if the terms were slightly different than what was reported yesterday. And you know what? On both instances, I feel I was right. I wanted it done. It got done around 12:30 today, both sides, FSU and Clemson. And some of the numbers were even better than initially reported yesterday. So that's awesome. Listen, I'm one of the people too who basically, when we filed the lawsuit, was like, that's it. We are getting out of this awful conference. I don't like the ACC. I've never liked them. And I've really disliked them even more over the last 5-10 years. Even yesterday, when I first heard the settlement, I wasn't that happy because I said, oh, that means we're stuck in this conference for longer than we wanted. But when I let the dust settle, I realized how much of a victory it was. And then today reminded me that even more. And today I woke up reinvigorated as a Florida State fan today after the awful football season we've had. Basketball's been brutal. Baseball's off to a good start, but it's early. So that being said, let's just go over it a little bit. Billy's going to come on and give his 2 cents as well. So let me just go over the terms, and then he can jump in with his opinion. Basically, FSU is going to get more money to stay a year, which is what they've been fighting for a long time. It's not just to get out of the conference. They wanted their share. That we've been keeping this conference afloat for so long. We wanted to be compensated for it, which we were laughed at before by media, by the conference itself. So we're getting more money. A bunch of schools have now cough up $7 million a year out of their revenue share to pay us in Clemson, which I think is well deserved. I don't care what anyone says. They wouldn't have this deal they have now if it wasn't for us. So we're getting that money. But the important thing is we can get out of the conference earlier, which everybody wants, even if they don't admit it, and for a whole lot less. There was no way we could pay the exit fee before. And you know what? They never even really reported a true number. So we couldn't even tell another conference, this is what it'll be to get us. Now we know the number. Now we know we're out of the grant of rights. And if we leave, they can't keep our media rights till 2036. Huge win. Huge win. Basically, we can get our ducks in a row as far as a new conference, which I'm sure they've been doing. I mean, who are we kidding? Just behind the scenes, back channels, run into your buddy at a bar and say, hey, how's your conference doing? So I think that's great. I do. It's nice that this is behind us now. I got to the point about a month or two ago where I hadn't heard anything. I'm like, this isn't good. Maybe it's just not going our way. Then when the Florida Supreme Court ruled that they wouldn't pause the lawsuit in Florida, I knew that was big. It turned out it was. So that's great. Anybody has any comments on the situation? Just want to say hi. Do it. Okay, Billy's coming on. So I'm pumped. Like, they did great, but I don't want to be in the conference. They're saying at 2029, 2030, that's when we get it for under 100 million. I heard today 165. in the year or two, even less, that's going to be doable. There he is. Hold on one sec. Perfect timing, Billy. Welcome back.
What's going on, man? Long time.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. A little news has gone on the last couple of days since we last talked.
Yeah, not bad. We picked a good time.
There we do. So I already told the terms of the deal. So I realized even more today how great we did when I saw the exit fee is so manageable now.
Especially when you consider where we were coming from a leverage standpoint.
Oh.
Like legally, it was going to be a long, drawn-out battle. And I don't think FSU had any left. Like if it went to a ruling, I think we lose. A lot of the experts were saying that. So to go from that,
I'm sorry. Now they're saying differently today that the ACC kind of realized they didn't want to pay 4 lawsuits.
Okay, that makes more sense
and when they lost in the Florida Supreme Court, listen, none of these schools are giving up money if they thought it was a nothing lawsuit on our part.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the things it does, it makes sense all around. So forget the leverage standpoint. It makes sense for all the bottom dweller ACC schools like Syracuse or whoever to cough up a little bit of money to stay relevant. And I think we got about as good of a deal as you could have. The trickle effects of this, the ripple effects, I guess, the days of Vandy getting the same money as Alabama are numbered. Like the rest of the conferences are going to look at this and be like, hey, why aren't we doing this? So we're going to have an edge now. It'll get us a little bit closer on the revenue gap. Will still be, I think ESPN said some estimates said that the Florida States and the Clemson of the world could earn about $50 million total a year. So we're still like 20 million behind.
Yeah. We can't do long term like this.
No, it's
a nice Band-Aid for the next 3 years or whatever, 4 years.
But now, what's going to stop Alabama and Georgia from saying we'd like to file suit?
It's funny. Jeff Cameron asked Andy Staples that today.
Yeah.
What if Georgia says, and he goes, I don't see it happening at all. They want to keep their league happy because they're doing so well there.
Nobody cares.
I know. That's what Staples said, and he was pretty adamant. He lives in Florida country, so
then this is like you'll hear it here first. It's happening. Ohio State, Michigan, the Georgias, the Alabamas. Over the next 5 years, either the teams are going to be proactive and there won't be a lawsuit filed and we'll do it because of whatever precedent was set with the ACC. There is no way even revenue distribution will be maintained when you have a school like Vandy who doesn't invest in their football program at all, get $75 million a year when Bama and Georgia's of the world are carrying the load. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I didn't think about that part. Yeah. And Big Ten's weird because it's like you got some schools that really invest in other sports and not in football.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. Like in Indiana might not invest a ton in football, but they do in basketball.
Well, they're
Western or Minnesota or some of these schools.
They're starting like Northwestern. They're building that new football stadium.
Yeah, and they have the players only facility. That's gorgeous, I hear.
Yeah, I've heard rumors that a lot of the Big Ten schools are going to take that money and do something with it. Some of the SEC schools, it's almost like the old Florida State mentality when Bobby Bowden was on his way out and Jim was like, we need to invest resources in Florida State. The big heads were like, no, we're Florida State. We're good. We don't need to do that. Yeah. Some of the SEC schools still have that mentality. It's like, no. If they do have that mentality, the teams that are actually bringing the viewers to the conference are going to start getting chippy with it. So.
But they're so compensated so well right now. I don't think they're seeing it that way. Because we did this to survive. Alabama and Georgia don't need to do that to survive.
Well, so this is another tangent I'll go off on.
Yeah, please.
Public schools like Florida State and Florida are public institutions. And if they have a deficit, the state funds it. And if the state has a deficit, the federal government funds it. You cannot not be solvent as a state. So all this griping about money, like, I don't know, it's a narrative that's created by whoever's benefiting from it. These schools can operate at a massive loss and it's fine. So like, and I don't say it's fine, it's covered. Someone's footing
in the academics, not in athletics. Like state of Florida is not cutting a check to Florida State.
If the University of Florida or Florida State University have a deficit, whether it's the
because FAMU's never gotten a check.
Well, they don't. I mean, they'll start receiving political pressure, but
That's because they have to shut down football during COVID because they just couldn't afford to run it.
it's a politics game, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Shut. So if FAMU starts running a $200 million deficit because they don't bring the revenue that a Florida State does, they'll get pushback. But when push comes to shove, if one of these universities need to do something and they don't balance their sheet, the state balances it. And if the state doesn't have a balance sheet, the federal government balances it. I'm not saying it's right, but that's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think any of these schools have ever been like hurting for money. Very few schools actually turn a profit anyways. And we all have football every fall. So the world still turns, even though a lot of them don't make any money.
But you still need to compete at a high level. You need that TV revenue.
I just think that the fighting and the narrative about it is it's like they drum up a lot of this. We need more money. We need more money so they can get more money. I don't actually think they need it when push comes to shove.
That's why when I heard 165 million, I'm like, we could be out tomorrow. I've heard for years where they've said 150, we would have stroked the check 3-5 years ago.
I mean,
it's not fun. I mean, who wants to write a check that big? But it was more than doable.
What did Texas and Oklahoma write? 120?
100.
Yeah. So
and ESPN negotiated to get them out early.
And they did.
I don't think ESPN's looking to help us get out per se.
No. Well, I mean, ESPN.
But they would if the Big Ten makes a huge pitch for us.
The inventory that ESPN has with the ACC, it's like the best sports contract in sports right now.
Oh, it's a joke.
It's insane. What they paying, the inventory that they get.
Right, nuts. And I'm sure that's something we've mentioned in the lawsuit.
They would be nuts to not renew this contract through the.
They don't get that without us.
They didn't what?
They wouldn't have the deal they have now without Florida State.
Not at all.
And you know what? I give them credit because when we filed this lawsuit, we were the most villainized team. No one had ever done it before. Criticized to no end.
It was the timing.
You were right.
We were right. Well, you remember the timing of it. We had just been called the biggest crybaby school in the country because of the snow.
Right.
That happens. And it just looked like we just, the narrative started snowballing that we were just crybabies. But they did the right thing. The outcome was about as good as you could possibly.
Apparently, Warchant said for a good source that I guess 3 weeks ago there was an offer and Clemson was ready right then to sign. Florida State said no, and we got a much better deal.
Yeah, it's a
really new. I guess the right people were running the show.
Yeah,
because we weren't sure in the last month or so.
Yeah, I want to see how long it takes for the big conference, the big schools in the other conferences to.
Yeah, I don't think the ripple effect. I don't think so.
The whole sport is every 5 years, there's major shifts because of greedy people. Yeah. So now you have an opportunity to get more money. But what pattern of behavior have they shown that they're not going to take it?
I mean, I love it because ACC laughed at us and said, "This is ironclad. Get lost."
So
ironclad.
Tell me about what you heard regarding the. I guess I didn't think Florida State, from everything that I've read the last year since we filed the lawsuit, and some of the rulings that did get handed out, or some of the determinations from some of the judges, I didn't think we had any leverage. So what did you do?
We had leverage. I mean, listen, like I said, they don't get on that Zoom call and tell people if they didn't think they had a chance to lose.
But
that being said, I knew something was big when the Florida Supreme Court ruled against the ACC's motion to pause. I knew that was huge because they could have lost there. I think there was a discovery that was found. I truly think. And where's there a precedent for we hold you for this long?
We signed it.
I know.
That's
not all contracts are. I get it.
If this thing goes to like an actual hearing,
yeah, I mean, either side there was a 50-50 chance.
I think the ACC could have just said no, done.
I think the ACC was like, we got to say this. I don't know. I don't think they. I think we won this situation. Andy Staples is like, this is like a 40-point blowout.
So this is the only thing I can think of from the ACC standpoint, and it might be
nepotism.
It might just be wishful thinking. They've now got the big dogs happy for the next 5 or 6 years. Phillips now has 5 or 6 years to think of something else. Because if we're the only conference that's going to do uneven revenue distribution, I don't want to go to another conference. I want another TV deal, but I don't want to go to another conference.
We got to get out because think about it. SEC is getting. I think I mentioned this to you 2-3 months ago. Who's getting all the primetime games on ABC and ESPN?
So this whole thing about
that's huge for ratings, and that's a big part of our deal.
You think
a noon game on ESPN2 is not the same as primetime ABC.
Florida State always gets primetime game.
We sucked this year, but the SEC is going to get priority over us in ABC, ESPN. They are their cash cow. They're paying that deal 3-4 times as much as ours.
The
Ole Miss game will get priority over FSU and Virginia Tech. It always will.
When Florida State played, if Florida State's in the top 5, in the top 10, and this is all going to come down to winning, so I'm going to circle back to that. Let's say we're back in a top 10 program, and we're playing a Notre Dame. That's going to get precedence over. That's going to compete with every other.
Not on ESPN. I'm telling you, they've made it clear the SEC is their priority.
ESPN and ACC are going to put the game on that's going to draw the most eyes. Florida State doesn't have a lack of a draw. That argument's garbage.
No, I understand that, but
in the 90s,
if Georgia Texas is going head in a matchup is going head to head with Florida State Notre Dame, Georgia Texas will get the priority.
No, it depends on where we are. If Florida State's a top 5 program and Texas or whoever has fallen off because they're taking a beating, and this is what I'm getting at. We go to the SEC and we get our teeth kicked in like Florida every year. I don't want that. Like that is not Bobby Bowden the decision.
Yeah, but our brand's still going to take a hit at staying in the ACC.
I know
because we're a second-rate conference.
No, that's just you win games and it's all that matters.
It's business. That's why. When we weren't in the same, when ABC did not do SEC games, we were okay there because we could get some prime. What was a big primetime ACC game this year?
So Florida State has never been in a premier conference. The ACC sucked in the 90s.
I understand, but CBS always had the prime SEC game at 3:30.
Right.
So ABC did not show SEC games.
Well, but people don't watch one game anymore. There's no.
I understand, but the primetime game is the best ratings.
I just don't see how the number one priority is to win games and win championships. I honestly don't give a fuck about the being the highest earning school. It's about winning. The reason we want to make money as an athletic department is so you can put the best football team on the field and win games. People lose sight of that in all these conversations. Florida had a hell of a football team this year. They barely kept their coach because of their confidence. You don't want that smoke. Now, Oklahoma is going to struggle for a very long time. Yeah, they got all the money. Congratulations. Tell me how many primetime viewers are going to watch Oklahoma at 6 and 5 next year.
Yeah, they had the primetime game with Bama this year.
You have to win games.
That's why I'm saying do me a favor. Watch the TV schedule more this year. Yeah, watch how the ACC is treated compared to the SEC.
Well, that's because
you have a client, for example, that gives you $500 million a year, and you have another client that gives you $100 million a year. Who's going to get more of your time?
Well, the profit margin on the ACC contract is way bigger than the SEC.
Okay.
They
just take the ratings for them.
The reason the SEC gets the prime picks, they have the best teams.
Correct.
Well, that's all people care about. Show me a top 5 matchup. What I'm saying is, everybody wants to get into one of these big time conferences, Oklahoma's going to have a miserable 5-year run. They may turn into Nebraska. Ask Nebraska how that went for them. How many?
Listen, you're looking at 6, 7, 8 teams from the Big Ten and SEC are going to get playoff bids.
How many primetime games does Nebraska get? They were the team in the 90s with Florida State.
They got
to a big conference. They got all the money. Congratulations. They're garbage. They may not recover. I don't know.
Well, they were on NBC. That was a primetime NBC game. They played.
It's also irrelevant. They're not a relevant program in the national title conversation.
That's why the Big Ten I'm cool with. You get the Fox primetime games. You get the NBC primetime game. You get the Peacock special. Because we're going to a streaming world too. So TV money is a lot different than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
I don't care about any of that. I want to win games and win championships. And
at a high level, you have to be on par financially at these schools.
But we're not. We haven't been.
We're not. Exactly. But long term, we can't do it.
I disagree.
Long term?
Yeah.
So you think long term we could compete with the Bamas and Georgias of the world in this ACC climate?
So this is what I'm
I'm talking about to build the right team to compete for championships.
So what we have to be close. We don't have Texas and Texas A&M. People don't realize this. Over the last 20 years, they consistently make $20 to $50 million more at their athletic departments than
because their endowment.
How many championships have they won?
No, I understand their endowment's insane. Just like Michigan, Ohio State. Yeah, I get it. Ohio State, their worth is insane.
So but this is what I'm getting at. Everybody wants to win the money game. I don't care. Like, we've lost the money game before. In 2013, we were like number 18 in revenue. Gives a shit. We won an Natty.
Different than 25, man.
What I'm saying is the best case scenario, and I'll argue this till cows come home. We figure out if we're the only conference who's going to do this type of uneven revenue distribution, and we get to a place where we can go to open market for a new TV deal, and we get a big time TV deal, and we're getting 60%. We're in the top tier that gets 60% of it. We'll get as much, if not more, than those other schools.
In a new conference?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, in the ACC. No, but we got to get to the ACC. It's not.
If the ACC were to go to market with a TV deal next year, it would not be. It would be 3 times what ESPN's paying. Literally.
Well, they just renewed.
I know, but they had the option to renew it at some ridiculous garbage.
Yeah.
That we already signed up.
Right.
What I'm saying is, forget all that. Scrap it. They go to market. Someone pays probably what's the Big Ten deal?
The Big Ten SEC is where the money is. Whatever we can make in the ACC, we will never make as much in the ACC as we could in those.
Hear me out. So the Big Ten gets 1.1 billion a year.
It's crazy.
So let's say the ACC gets they go to market this year and they get, this is hypothetical, and they get $600 million a year. Not even close to Big Ten money. But Florida State and 2 or 3 other schools get 60% of it. You might be better off than one of the 16 teams scoring 1.2 billion. So that they get between 70 and 75 million in school. What I'm saying is, if Florida State can get to a place where they stay in the ACC conference and they get an open market TV deal that's much less than the SEC and the Big Ten, if they get that type of split, I'm staying all day. Because now you are competing financially, and I don't care about the prime time. I want to be in the top 10 program talent-wise, and I want to be in the playoffs, and I want to win championships. I don't really care about it. I just want enough money to be able to compete at that level.
Well, that's obviously the key no matter what. That's always been my issue of wanting to get out of this conference, was we can't compete with those conferences. But the thing is, Big Ten might not. I mean, I think they want us. There's a rumor that they've already had a handshake agreement. They don't want us before they go on to market, Big Ten, because then the other schools have to take less money to bring us in.
Right.
They want us as attractive for the new TV deal. I wouldn't go into the Big Ten at a 60% share, waiting for a couple of years, waiting for the TV money to kick in to pay 160 to leave. That's crazy. If we're 80, 90, 100, all right, that's cool.
So then this
we'll make it back
to my point on what I think Phillips is doing. So he bought everybody. We're settled now for the next 5 years. When the
we can go in open market tomorrow now.
No, the buyout doesn't get reduced till 2030.
Yeah, but it's 165 now. It's in 2026. That's doable. I had heard they had said 150 was no problem.
So I thought that the reduced buyout and the TV owning. Oh, so it's a one-time. You're saying in 2026 it's a one-time fee of 165.
Correct. That's with all the fees, everything. After that, it goes down 18 million a year.
Okay.
That's why 29-30 it's under 100. That's the cheapest we can get it at.
All right. So
but if we're willing to pay the 165 or whatever it is, we could get out in 2026. I don't know, and I think we're timing this settlement based on the Big Ten. I don't think wants to make a move until they get ready to renew their TV deal.
And so this goes back
to the SEC.
I don't want to move yet. I want to get back to. We're not a good football team yet. we need to be in the ACC and have some softballs to hit out of the ballpark.
And you know what? You got time. Get your ducks in a row. Football, whatever. Right? They got to do their own thing. I'm talking about from a business standpoint, from going to market, a good deal. Take your time, get it right.
Right.
Because you're not rushed tomorrow because those TV deals aren't for another 3-4 years.
Right. Well, I thought they all come due in 2029, 2030.
They do.
Yeah.
2030.
So me,
They might want us in 2028 or 2027. So when they go to TV, hey, we got Florida State now. We've got every part of the country covered. It just makes them more attractive.
And it buys Phil. So he's got like 3 to 5 years to figure something else out.
Correct. It's a short-term Band-Aid that didn't really help. They're going to say they kept the league together. They're happy, but we won.
But it also there is a scenario where he does keep the league together. And this is, I guess, if I'm him, you do try to figure out where you talk them into, hey, we're going to continue this revenue type distribution. Stay. You'll end up when we do get a new TV deal. You guys can get a bigger cut than anybody else does across the country. Stay.
Here's the performance initiative. Like Clemson and SMU are getting an extra $4 million this year for going.
When ESPN did their estimate that Florida State and Clemson could make up to $50 million a year, that was with both incentives. It was the
correct
distribution and the
not the performance.
And the performance.
That's like a bonus at the end.
Right. So if you add those two together, plus
it's up to 15, 20 million or more a year we're making. And all the media people said they never thought we could get 20.
Right.
They thought we were insane for even trying that.
Right.
I don't know how they got that much. They must have thought they had a chance to lose the lawsuit, and then we get out for nothing.
Yeah, I honestly don't. I don't know why the ACC. I felt like they had all the leverage, so I don't know why they negotiated.
Yeah, but Peter Collins, to his credit, man, he's the ringleader. He said it 2 years ago on a War Chant Smash. He said, if we're ever going to leave this conference, it won't be because of the grant of rights. He said that and my eyes went up. He turned out to be right.
Yeah.
I'm sure we found some stuff in Discovery. That stuff with Swafford was really shady.
Yeah.
They didn't want Swafford to have to get called to the carpet. That's why another thing. They didn't want to go to court, the ACC, and show their shady practices.
Right.
How do you stay in good shape as a conference when people know how John Swafford did that CW deal?
Yeah.
To help his son out? Instead of getting us a much better deal elsewhere, like we could have got.
So to your point in Discovery, so from a legal standpoint, ACC probably had all the leverage. From a Discovery and all the other skeletons in the closet, they may have been like, you know what, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it was under lock and key all those years, the grant of rights, that we signed this supposed agreement and we're part of it and we can't read it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was. I remember Weatherford said, why can't we read it? No, you're not allowed in without a lawyer, and you're not allowed to take pictures.
Yeah, but those are all things, those are all things everybody signed up for. Adults read.
They really believe that Notre Dame was joining full-time.
I don't feel bad for people who go, oh, that's not fair. Read it. And then that's business. So if you didn't read it and you didn't know what you were signing.
I mean, okay, they were absolutely convinced that Notre Dame was joining full-time. That was like the big carrot.
Sure.
That should have been in writing, pending Notre Dame becoming a full-fledged member.
No, whatever happened in like the 2000 teens when all these deals were made, it's just such bad business.
I know it was a different time in football.
Yeah, it was. I think there was.
I get it. But why would you lock your like? And if Notre Dame was the big, just get it a squad.
Well, I remember when
something I learned not even being a lawyer.
I remember when the ACC deal was first signed. It was like one of the first of its. They actually thought it was a good deal. Wow, they're getting all this money for 20 years. This is great. And then the whole industry changed.
Right, and Maryland saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, right.
To their credit. I mean, they had Under Armour to help them get out.
But my because I do have to run. My final take on this is two things. I do think you're going to see school. I don't know if they'll file suit, but schools are going to be like, we want that too. The Alabamas and the Georgias, the Ohio States and the Michigans are not going to want to give receive the same money as the Vanderbilts of the world in the Indians. That's one. Two, I don't care as much about the money as I do about winning championships. And everybody wants to get out of the ACC. I would like to have enough money to compete and stay in the ACC because it just gives us an easier route, especially with the playoffs. You're going to run a gauntlet in the playoffs. Give me 2 or 3 hard games a year and give me a bunch of Vanderbilts or Wake Forest and Dukes. I'm cool with that. So that's where I hope it goes. And Phillips bought himself time to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And at least we're compensated for that
Right.
horrible time. But
Overall,
I promise I wouldn't keep you all night.
overall, I'm really happy with it though.
No, listen, it was listen, when we signed the lawsuit, I said we're done. Remember, I think it's when I met you. And I said, we're out. We're gonna hopefully, I said. But I knew a settlement was possible. I thought a settlement did involve us leaving.
Yeah.
But that was never gonna happen. I knew the longer it dragged out. I knew after 8, 9, 10 months, I'm like, all right, man, we're gonna be.
I didn't know where it was going. I didn't know what the exit strategy was. So that's why when this news came up,
It was a risk us doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, if the ACC was not going to be willing to settle and pay for legal fees, and we were in trouble, how bad we would have looked.
Yeah.
Clemson would not have looked as bad as us because
Right.
they came in after, they waited. I know I said the same thing there. They would not have looked as bad as us.
No.
Because we're the ones who threw the gauntlet down.
Yeah.
That's why I kept waiting to hear the words North Carolina has entered the lawsuit, and the conference would have dissolved.
Right. Those two, so North Carolina and they're all going to, those two schools in particular reap the benefit without any.
Yeah. That's why I'm almost like, I told myself today, wait, do I not watch a Miami game now because it's money in their pocket if I do?
I won't. No joke.
No, but legit, like they were talking about that. They were like, if we watch one of their games, we're giving them money.
There needs to be like viewership battles, 100%. And no one will lose a viewership battle quicker than Miami. Their fans suck.
I agree.
So
I agree. But they're lucky early in the year next year. They have like 2 marquee games.
they opened with Notre Dame.
Yeah, and they got Florida like in the first one.
Yeah.
So they should be thanking us so much today. They won't, but
No.
they owe us a huge thank you.
Yeah.
But hey, thank you so much, brother.
Good stuff, man. We'll catch up later.
Please do. Hey, good talking to you. Have you come back? Now things are starting to heat up. All right, thanks, Billy. Thanks everyone for coming in, and that's it for now. If you got any comments later on, let us know. That's me and Billy. Sometimes we butt heads, but I love a point counterpoint session. No point of always agreeing on everything. So take care, everyone, and I think we did well in the settlement.